Hi, I'm Justin Boyd.
And I am Bucky Barnes, and we are the Watchers in the Basement.
You are not Bucky Barnes. For sure, you're not Bucky Barnes. Welcome to the Watchers in the Basement. Today, we are here to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Captain America, the Winter Soldier. It's like, wow, 10 years. It's been almost exactly. In fact, April 4th will be the 10-year anniversary to the day of what I think is one of the best movies. I mean, one of the best movies ever, but like also one of the best MCU movies. Certainly, we're going to talk more about that very shortly. Before you get my thoughts and Brittany's thoughts, of course, about the film, I want to hit you with some Captain America facts, some Cap facts. Once again, the movie Captain America: The Winter Soldier released April 4th, 2014. It's the ninth film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the third film in Phase Two. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score, critic score of 90%, audience score of 92%. So critics and audiences agree this is an awesome movie. The film was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects. This is a very good looking movie, so that's not too surprising. It did not win, however, but it was nominated. Runtime 2 hours 16 minutes. Very good runtime considering how much story and how many characters are in this movie. Like they do a good job of it's not 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's not an hour and a half. I think it's kind of like the perfect runtime. Box office, it made 714 million with a budget of 170 million. It was directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, better known as the Russo brothers. This was their first MCU film. They would also go on to direct Captain America: Civil War, Avengers: Infinity War, and Avengers: Endgame. And the writers for this film were Christopher Marcus and Stephen McFeely. Those names are very familiar if you're a fan of the MCU. They wrote all three Captain America movies. They also wrote Infinity War and Endgame. So their batting average is high. They wrote, I mean, really all my favorite movies in the MCU. So I would love to see Marcus and McFeely come back to help out if they're available. And now the cast, of course: Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Cobie Smulders, Frank Grillo, Emily VanCamp, Hayley Atwell, Toby Jones, Robert Redford, and Samuel L. Jackson. Brittany, when I say Captain America: The Winter Soldier, what do you say?
Woo! Muy caliente. No, I think this is definitely up there in terms of movies for me. I feel out of the Captain America trilogy, Civil War is my favorite. This one comes second. And it's really cool. The action is so good. There's a lot of just great lines. I love the addition of Sam Wilson, aka Falcon, who
Yep.
joins and teams up with Cap and Black Widow. But getting that callback for Steve Rogers, his best friend whom he thought was dead, right, ends up being experimented on. He's like this force to be reckoned with man, and it's incredible. And I really do enjoy this movie, and I love seeing even Robert Redford, who plays a pretty significant role in this movie. And the dynamic between him and Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury was really cool. Getting to see the inner workings of what Shield, or what you think Shield is, and it's been infiltrated from the start, and that's just a huge shocker for everyone who believes in Shield, and especially for Cap America, obviously, because he's all about the red, white, and blue, and doing good, and being someone that can protect everyone. And then it's all been a lie. So this movie is definitely up there for me, and I am just loving Bucky Barnes. Yeah, he can get it.
James Buchanan Barnes, his friends call him Bucky, or at least Steve Rogers does.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie, I mean, this is one of my favorites. It's a superhero movie. It's an action adventure movie, but it's also a spy thriller, which you don't get that very often in the superhero genre. And it's a movie where it's like, I feel like, and I have not seen all of the Mission Impossible movies, but I feel like they're probably not as good as this movie. And I feel like this is kind of like, what if Mission Impossible had an actual superhero as the lead? And that's what Captain America: Civil War is, or Jason Bourne, those movies, the Bourne
Yeah.
Identity. I mean, those guys are kind of, Ethan Hunt and Jason Bourne are kind of superheroes in those worlds anyway. But like, Captain America is a super soldier with the serum, so like he is a legit superhero. So I love this film. I love the score for this film.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, it's uh, Henry Jackman did the score. He picks up from Alan Silvestri, who did the first Avenger. Of course, the Captain America, like his theme song that Alan Silvestri came up with in the first movie. I mean, if it were up to me, that would be the national anthem. Like I love that song. I think
It's a slow start. Yeah, it's good.
I hum that song all the time. It's
Oh my gosh.
probably my favorite MCU theme. Besides, I mean, the Avengers theme is obviously very strong, but
Yeah.
no, this is a great movie. One of my favorites. And Brittany, you know whose movie this is a favorite of is Chris Evans. That's right.
Mhm.
Steve Rogers himself. Just a little over a month ago, Chris was at an event. It was let me get the notes exactly right here. Yeah, the event was Seattle's Emerald City Con at a
Mm.
convention, a Comic Con, and he spoke at a panel. And someone asked him what was his favorite Marvel movie, and he said, hands down, it's Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Um, and I got to say, like, I mean, personally, I like Infinity War and Endgame better, but like that's kind of like that's not really fair because there's so
Well,
many.
that's a team up as opposed to like a solo movie.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, that got me to thinking. Okay, so and we're gonna do a poll about this on our social media channels later or tomorrow or whenever we can. And obviously, we can do it in the chat right now.
Yeah,
But I was trying to think of because like you mentioned that Civil War is your favorite movie.
it
I mean,
is.
technically, it's a Captain America movie, and I guess technically it's a solo film. But I mean, it's Avengers 2.5, right? And
It
even
really is.
yeah, even Winter Soldier, there's many characters in the movie. Obviously, Captain America and the Winter Soldier are two main characters.
Mhm.
But that got me to thinking. Here's the poll: which of these films is your favorite MCU solo film? I came up with a list of 6 movies: Iron Man, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy. I chose the first one. Thor: Ragnarok, Black Panther, or Spider-Man: No Way Home. So again, we're gonna have the poll out later on our social media channels. So check us out for that, or let us know in the chat right now.
Man,
That'd be great.
that's
So
tough.
yeah, Brittany, let me get your thoughts on that while I'll post the poll in the chat and let's hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, they're all bangers in their own respect, right? I mean, I think it's interesting that you chose Captain America: The Winter Soldier as opposed to like Captain America: The First Avenger, right? With respect. And I ooh, that's really really tough. I love Captain America. I really do love Captain America.
Yeah.
Obviously people will do a toss up between Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, understandably so. I like each movie that you listed off for various reasons. Although, let's be real, Guardians is still not my top. But yeah, it's that'll probably rank lower for
Mhm.
me. But I like the other movies for various reasons. Iron Man, for obvious, it kicked off the MCU, the return of RDJ, and just setting the tone for everything, obviously. So that's great. I love Thor because we got a different take on terms of cinematography. We got Loki. Love Tom Hiddleston, fantastic, and I love Black Panther because of just the cast and just like such a statement that movie brought to the film
Mhm.
industry. So and I'm reading the chat here from McDorks. Technically, Hulk was first. Yes, technically,
Well,
but
it wasn't though. Iron Man was
I know.
first. Yeah.
I mean, yes, we can
Yeah.
argue that, but definitively in terms of like MCU, it is Iron Man. So, yeah, they're all strong for different reasons. So, as y'all can see here in the chat, just added which MCU solo film is best: Iron Man, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, Thor, Ragnarok. Oh, it was Thor Ragnarok that you said. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, Ragnarok's like solid because
Yeah.
that was so different in
Yeah.
general. Period. Like just so different. There's so much more comedic uh, uh lines in that movie. Black Panther, I've already, expressed that. And then Spider-Man No Way Home. That movie was just wild. Like it's also incorporating one of my favorite characters in the MCU, and that is Doctor Strange, of course. So yeah, that's just, I don't have an answer for you, Justin, right now. Those are some bangers to choose from. So
Yeah, and obviously there's
yeah.
other ones that you could consider, like you said, Civil War could be in here. I think Guardians 3 could have easily been on here.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
there's a lot of options. I had to
There's a
try to
lot of
kind of
options.
pare it down. Honestly, I was trying to get to 4, but I was like, I don't know if I can get to 4. But
Yeah.
maybe on like Twitter we'll only have 4 because I think Twitter's max is 4 on a poll. So
Yeah.
anyway, let us know what you think. Which one's your favorite, or which one's the best, and why? I think it's hard to go against Iron Man because it's the first one that started it all off, but I do think this is a better movie. It's a better story, I believe. So anyway, that's what we'll go with that.
Mm-hmm.
Brittany, really, I think this is a fantastic movie. I have one note. I have one criticism of the film. This is my only criticism. The title of the movie. It's Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which very cool title, right? But if you on its surface, it's just two character names back to back. It'd be like if you had a movie called Spider-Man: Hulk. It wouldn't work as well. Like if this movie was called Captain America: The Rise of the Winter Soldier or something, which I'm surprised it wasn't called that. Like that would at least, it wouldn't just be two character names back to back. But anyway.
I mean, yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
I don't hate
small
it.
nitpick. No, I like
I
the
don't hate
title
it at
actually,
all. I
but like when
mean,
you think about it, it could be a little more. There could be something
yeah.
else to it. Yeah.
Well, and that tradition kind of rang true when the spinoff show began. It was the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, right? But those are their actual like superhero names, if you will. Those are their identities. But yeah, it's the same idea, but it's fine. It's not a deal breaker for me at all. Quick shout out to those in the chat joining us. We've got King B. Johnson, who is joining us. We appreciate you being here so much. We also got our brother from the north, Drew, who is here. Drew, always appreciate you being here. Also joining us on the pods when you are available. And Christian from McDorks, thank you so much for being here. And he has a small request, unrelated to any of this, but he's asking that I do the X-Men intro.
Okay.
I can.
The theme song?
I guess.
Yeah. Go for
it. And scene. Anyway, but
Now
yes.
do the Captain America theme.
Oh, the only one that came to mind was Avengers. Dun, dun,
There
dun,
you
dun. That's as far as it goes. But thank you. Appreciate it. You're very welcome, Christian. Glad you enjoyed. And yes, King Johnson, viva la raza.
Yep. And Brittany, you mentioned that Drew's joining us, and he sent us something special to share with the audience. This is very cool. Let's check this out. For audio listeners, we're showing a photo right now. That's our guy Drew.
It's very
rocking the Winter Soldier like sweatshirt, or maybe it's a hoodie, maybe it's just a sweatshirt. Anyway,
almost gives like a bodysuit kind of vibe, like because it's very like stretchy looking.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. You can see the metal arm there.
Yeah, the detailing on the metal arm with the red star on the shoulder is super cool. Drew, where in the heck did you get this? Because I can like see Frank, our fellow watcher, probably wearing something like this. I think we even have like a Captain America one that we used for something at work.
We have a shield at work too.
We have a shield at work.
I mean, it's plastic, but it's the full size one. So that's pretty cool. And also because Drew lives in Wisconsin, like he actually could be the Winter Soldier. Whereas here in Texas, we would be like, the spring, basically summer soldier, like we never have the backdrop that he has there. So
hardly spring, Justin. It's beginning of April and it's hot. Like it's been hot.
It's cooler today though.
A little bit, but not by much.
No.
Yeah.
But no, thanks again, Drew. We appreciate the photo. Appreciate you joining us, being our friend, being on the podcast. Yeah, you're a guy. So very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Very
Brittany,
cool.
let's get to the movie now. Let's
Do it.
just talk about some of our favorite scenes. And I want to start off with, I think the first scene of the movie is maybe the most iconic scene of the movie, and that's On Your Left. Like it's such a, it's such a great introduction to Steve Rogers meeting Sam Wilson. And On Your Left, there's a great callback at the end of the movie. There's an even better callback in Avengers Endgame. And I just love how they take these little sayings and they have a story unto themselves,
Mm-hmm.
so in this movie, excuse me, um, the movie opens and you see Sam Wilson and he's on an early morning or an early morning jog around the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. And then you see this guy just killing it, just like the Flash coming around. And he's like, as he's passing him, he's like, on your left. And he does it a couple of times. And, he's just lapping this Sam Wilson guy. And then, Sam sees him coming again. He's like, don't say it. Don't say it. And then he gets mad. I think that's a great way to have these characters meet. And then, of course, what the saying means down the road.
Yeah.
I think 10 out of 10. That's what I think about this scene. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts about it?
Oh, it's an extremely well crafted intro to this movie, and to show what their bond and what their friendship will look like over the course of this movie to the end, to end game, like you mentioned, and how significant that line of on your left would play out. So yeah, that was really well done. I love their interaction. how Cap feels the need to introduce himself to Sam Wilson. He's like, no, I got it. Like I figured it was you, just by the laps and kind of thing. And how you're kind of getting this update with Steve in general, because I think this takes place like 2 years after the Battle of New York.
Yep.
And how Steve is trying to kind of like play catch up with the world. He carries around this little book that has like things he needs to research, and Sam's
His
giving
list.
him,
yeah,
it's his list, and Sam is also contributing to that, in terms of like everything you need to know. It's an album from Marvin Gaye, and that was just a wonderful moment between the two. And then enter Black Widow and her like sporty ass vehicle, and it's just, I don't know, it was a great intro to Sam, a great intro to what their friendship would later turn out to be, because it would be significant in Civil War. So
yep.
It was solid. It was so well done.
Yeah. So talking about the list, Cap's list, Drew's got a great comment here about all the pop culture stuff and the Watchers in the Basement. That would be awesome if in the future maybe it makes Sam's list. But
can we go back and like edit that?
Right. As far as Steve's list, I took a second to like pause it, and I wanted to share everything that's on the list because they show it real quickly. So the first thing, I Love Lucy, says television, moon landing, Berlin Wall up and down. It says Steve Jobs. This is Apple in parentheses. Disco, Thai food. He has Star Wars / Trek, for Star Trek, Nirvana, Rocky, and then Rocky 2 in parentheses with a question mark. And then, of course, the Trouble Man soundtrack from Marvin Gaye that Sam recommends. So that is pretty cool. And there's a junior novel for the movie that I read in anticipation of doing this podcast, and they have a slightly different list. Instead of Nirvana, they have Soundgarden, which I thought was like really strange that like you would. I mean, Soundgarden was a big band, obviously, but like Nirvana was a much larger band.
Nirvana's a much more well known, I'd say.
I thought that was kind of funny that
no disrespect to oh gosh, the singer that had passed away from Soundgarden,
Chris Cornell.
Anyway, Chris Cornell, thank you.
Yeah.
No disrespect to him at all, of course.
Yeah,
but I feel if you're gonna do a this or that, Nirvana or Soundgarden, people are gonna go with Nirvana.
I wonder if it was like maybe like a label thing, like like Disney has access to certain, I don't know, like they don't want to promote someone else's like artist or whatever. Who knows? With all these like these corporations that own everything, that
I know
they probably have a stake in the music industry. I mean, they absolutely do, but
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not sure if they have a stake in grunge rock or
Grunge music. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
Seattle, yeah.
So funny.
So in this scene, we also see Natasha Romanoff, aka the Black Widow. She comes to pick up Captain America and take him to the Smithsonian. She says, or
Can't
no,
run
she just
everywhere.
yeah, she's like, does anybody know where the Smithsonian is? I'm here to pick up a fossil. You kind of get the witty banter between the two, which becomes more than that later on. When we'll get to that too.
Oh my God. Yes,
Um,
we have to talk about this.
yeah, we talk about it now, Brittany. What do you think about Steve and Natasha? Like, there's definitely chemistry,
Oh,
but it's like it's weird because it's very flirty. These are two very attractive people, but
boy, they are.
yeah, but it's unlike how obviously in Avengers and then in Ultron, it seems like Natasha is into Bruce Banner. Like it feels like
That
something's
was
gonna happen,
weird.
and then they just drop it after Ultron.
Yeah.
But then this movie is obviously in between Avengers and Marvel's Avengers and the Age of Ultron. And she's like kind of flirty, but she's also like trying to hook him up with other people constantly. Like she wants him
Yeah.
to try to date Kristen in statistics and the nurse who's the neighbor who is actually Agent 13, aka Sharon Carter. And
Yeah.
there's the Lillian from some other department. She has a lip ring and he's like or
Mm.
nose ring. And he's like, yeah, I'm not ready for that, I don't think. Anyway, what are your thoughts on just the chemistry they have and the fact that it's like it seems like they should get together, but they don't.
I'm glad we're talking about this now because I do see where like Christian says he felt that their relationship was more brother sister like. I am of the complete opposite.
Yeah.
That chemistry was red hot. Like they are like just they mesh so well together, and I was shipping that so hard in this movie. I'm like, I need Cap to just like have a one-nighter with Black Widow and just put Peggy Carter behind him. I mean, bless her heart, she's aged and she's dealing with what I assume is like either Alzheimer's or dementia or something like that. And he has a wonderful moment with her in this movie. However, it's like he can't be with her. So it's like he works well with Natasha. Some things happen between people at work sometimes and it just works out, right? Like go hit it again, quit it. I don't care what you do, but like they were they were having so much chemistry in this movie. And then to further that point, when they're on the run, right? And she, to avoid being seen, she's like, acts of what is it, PDA, public displays of affections, tend to make people uncomfortable. And Steve is all like, yeah, it does. Then she like goes in for the kiss and he doesn't stop her.
And then afterwards she says, are you still uncomfortable? And he said, that's not exactly the word I would use. So
and he's in joggers, people.
Right. So and then also there's a scene before that where she talks about getting shot like in her like midsection or and she's like so no more bikinis for me, and he's like, yeah, I bet you look terrible in those. So like it's kind of there,
so good.
yeah.
And then she wanted to know afterwards when they steal the truck. She's like, I have a question. I feel like you don't have to answer it, but I feel like if you don't answer it, you're answering it. And he's like, what? Like, they're just their banter between the two. It's obviously very familiar. And this is where I can see it's that brother and sister sort of vibe. But she's like, was that your first kiss since 45 or whatever it was? He's like, wow, that bad. She's like, no. It's just like it. I loved their interactions together in this movie. It was just so much fun to watch. And I really was like rooting for them to, get together. And then in future movie, Age of Ultron, and she's like flirting with Bruce. And I'm like, wait a second, where the hell did this come from? Like,
yeah. See, to me, she has more of a brother sister thing with Hawkeye. Like in the movies, right? It seems like they have like.
So I know with that, I think in the comics, I think Black Widow and Hawkeye are like a thing. and we would have to confirm with Frank. I almost want to, unless Drew here knows for sure, but I almost feel like there is a comic where it's Natasha and Clint, like it's just them. But we don't see that in the movies. We see, of course, Clint has his family and he has his lovely wife and what have you. And it's not like that. It's not like that for Natasha. So I get it. She, if she doesn't recognize that Captain America isn't an attractive man, then there's something wrong with her. But like, girl went for it. She did it, and I'm jealous.
While we're talking about romance or love or whatever, let's you mentioned how he visits Peggy. Well, before he visits Peggy, there's a great scene where he goes to the Smithsonian and he sees his like exhibit, which I think is very well done.
Yeah.
And, like, they had like Gary Sinise is the actor who voices the all the narration for people walking up to exhibits, and they're saying,
which is
Steve
cool.
Rogers,
Which is cool because he's like a big time like veteran supporter, like period,
right.
So
right.
that was appropriate. Go ahead.
But I do like toward the end of that scene where Cap is in this little theater and he's watching, highlights of what happened back then, and they interview Peggy, and she makes a comment. She talks about how Steve helped save 1,000 men. She says Steve, but then she catches herself, says Captain America. She's like, he saved 1,000 men, including the man who would become my husband. Which I know there's been a lot of debate about this on the internet, but like, now that we know like what happens with Endgame, and it seems like obviously he goes back and he has that dance with his best gal. Who the hell is she talking? It's like, it's not him, right? Who do you think it is?
I don't think
it's
I don't think it necessarily would revert back to him, because now you're dealing with two different like timelines, right. I want to say, and I am no expert when it comes to like quantum physics or like how time works and multiversal things, but to me, it just, unless she's still operating under the mindset of being a spy and keeping secrets and things like that, she could just very much be teasing and just being coy about Steve Rogers save the man who would become my husband, and if she means he saved himself
right
and came back to her, then it's possible. It's possible. I don't know, but I'm not sure, and I kind of like that mystery to it all. But in this sense, I was like, Steve, get with Romanoff, like just do it.
And I think this might just be an instance where they didn't have everything figured out. Like we do like to, when you compare them to DC, it seems like they definitely have it figured out more so than DC did with their universe. But reading the book about how the MCU was built, it wasn't like one day Kevin Feige sat down and mapped out 15 years of movies and everything went according to plan. So that might have just been like, oh, this would be a great thing. Like, she's obviously like, Steve was like maybe the love of her life, but obviously she thought he was dead, and so she moved on with her life. And so to give a scene where she explains that he helped save her husband, and then of course Steve would feel bad because he wanted to be with Peggy. Like, I feel like that's probably more of what it was, and it's probably not some elaborate, well, he went back in time and then it's just, whatever. It's like,
yeah. How do you explain that?
Yeah. So I think they were just like in the moment trying to make the best scene they possibly could for the movie and not really worrying about the rest of the universe or future movies. So
yeah. Quickly catching up here in the chat, y'all are leaving some great comments. Thank you so much, and I apologize in advance if we just don't get to every single one of them. However, I'm just going to pick a few. Going back to Christian about the chemistry between Cap and Black Widow, because the actors have worked together in previous movies. They're obviously friends in real life, and they've continued that friendship. So that is a true reflection of just their performance in this movie as well. I mean, they seem just very naturally comfortable with one another. And so that's awesome. No on Hawkeye and Black Widow romance in the comics. Thanks, Drew, for letting us know. And he did mention earlier though, in the comics that my Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, and Natasha have friends with benefits going on in the comics. So I'm like, woo, yay! I love me some Daredevil. Yeah. So what else do we have going on in here? King B Johnson says, Stephen G Rogers hashtag incognito. Yes, he was incognito during that video of Peggy. He is the only one wearing a cap, and he's Captain America. Good point. Yeah, I
He
hadn't
wears a
really
cap a couple times in this movie.
He
Wears
does.
glasses in when they go to the
Specimen.
when they go to the Apple
Specimen.
store. Yeah, they're in the mall, and he's trying to like not
Yes,
look,
he is.
be in disguise, undercover kind of.
He's like, if I run, I'm gonna like fall out of these shoes or whatever. That was funny.
Yeah. So this movie, I mean, there's so many great scenes. It's got everything of most Marvel movies have, but I think the one thing it has, to the nth degree is action scenes. And Brittany, you want to talk about, like, we could go in order or we could go with your favorite. You pick.
There's so many incredible sequences, and I think the first one that really pops to mind is the scene between Cap and George St. Pierre's character.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, George St. Pierre is a, what do you call it, MMA fighter, and he's great. Like, he's great. I love the little French interaction between the two, and that how it almost seems like maybe Cap could be beaten, but he does his typical Cap moves and just like puts the dude to sleep, and it was just great. I love that all that happens on the ship, I think the Lumerian Stark that they're trying to get Stillwell back from, because he's being held hostage. So that was a really great scene. Of course, the action scene that dealt with Nick Fury when he's ambushed after, not being able to reveal whatever's on that jump drive from that ship. And that was like our first real glimpse of the Winter Soldier. And it's like, well, who the heck is this? And like, damn, he's packing. And yeah, that was great. And of course, the open fight scene between Cap, Black Widow, and Winter Soldier is really cool. So I mean, we can elaborate, of course, but Justin, what are your favorite fight sequences?
My favorite one, probably the most famous one, is the elevator fight scene.
Yes, how could I forget?
The elevator fight scene is iconic, and of course, it's again later on in Avengers Endgame, we call back to that, where the scenario goes a little bit differently. But I love that scene. I think that's a great scene, to watch. This big elevator, these guys are filing in. Cap notices, like, oh, it's weird that these guys have their hand on their sidearm, on their guns.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sees this one guy, like, he's got one of the strike agents has like beads of sweat. It's like he's like, okay, I know something's up. And I just love when like the final dudes get on there, and he, Cap is like, before we get started, does anyone want to get out? And then he just starts beating the hell out of them. And then Rumlow's like, oh, I just want you to know this isn't personal. And then Cap knocks him out. Like, it kind of feels personal. And then I love how like there's a shot overhead of like 15 dudes laid out on the floor of the elevator. The shield's in the ground, and Cap just like steps on it and like puts it back on his arm. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And of course he has to jump out of the elevator, through layers of glass and stuff to get away from more of the shield / Hydra agents or strike agents who are after him. That's just an awesome scene. I mean, like, I don't know if there's tons of action movies with fight scenes, but that one's up there in my mind.
To echo King B. Johnson here, he says, none of us will ever be in an elevator the same again. My dude, you're correct on that front. My goodness. Yeah, if I were to ever see a man of Captain America's stature and see just like an elevator crowded full of, operatives of sorts, yeah, I'll take the next elevator. I'm good. Yeah. I'll take the stairs. How about that? I'll be like Hulk. I don't like taking the stairs, but like I will take the stairs in lieu of being in that fight because your girl's not going to make it.
What's the weight limit for that elevator? Because there's like
Jeez.
seriously, there's like 15 people in that elevator.
Yeah. I mean, Cap's got to be like two something. So,
He
you
says
know,
he's 240. That's
yeah.
something else I love about the Smithsonian exhibit where they show like his like pre-serum
Mm.
height weight. He's like 5'2", 95 pounds or 94 pounds. And then post serum, he's 6'4" or 6'2", 240.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's where can I get some of that serum?
Listen, I was hoping for that when we were getting our first round of COVID
Yeah.
vaccines, and I literally asked the nurse, I'm like, "Is this the super soldier serum? Because I would like to be taller." And she laughed. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. Then of course after the fight scene, the elevator fight scene, then Alexander Pierce, like you said before, meant played by Robert Redford, which I think it's great to have Robert Redford play the
Mhm.
villain, in this kind of movie.
So good. So
Brings like
good.
his acting gravitas to the MCU. He declares that Captain America is a fugitive from Shield.
Mhm.
It's really cool. Like I like this movie is just great. Like there's just so many like layers to it. This is the one movie in the MCU. I think it might be maybe Iron Man is the other exception where I feel like people who don't even like this genre of movies will go, "That's a good one, though." Like,
Yeah.
that one is a good one, like,
Yeah.
because it doesn't I mean, yes, it involves superpowered beings,
Sure.
mainly Captain America, but, it's more grounded, it's gritty, like I said, it's like if Mission Impossible or Jason Bourne were superheroes, so,
Mhm. Yeah, it's definitely got a little bit of everything in the sense of like keeping you guessing about what's
yeah,
happening next, and then like especially with the underground bunker
yeah,
of Shield, I guess you could say,
right.
that houses a character that, we saw in the first Captain America movie. And that was oh gosh, I'm spacing on his character
Armin
name.
Zola.
Zola, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Who as Cap says, he was a German
right.
a German doctor who worked for Hydra and the Red Skull, and he's like, "First correction, I am
Swiss.
Swiss." I love
Yeah,
Toby Jones. I love Toby Jones and his performance and like everything that he does.
yeah,
For me, it's gonna be being the voice of Dobby in Harry Potter, and also loved him. He played a villain in BBC Sherlock in the I think it was third season. So yeah, Toby was great. I love that callback to him, and then how he's just being, excuse me for saying the word, very like sinister like and having his brain be in these computers,
yeah,
and he's just been working beyond his death, which
right.
is incredible. So like talk about like a whoa, like this is really like
Yeah,
on a different level. This antiquated setup with the computers and the towers and just, miles and miles and miles of information. And it's just like, holy hell.
I've worked
Crazy.
at places with similar tech. I'll just put it that way.
Bet I think I've probably toured the place that you're talking about. Yes. Anyway, but yeah, that
Yeah.
was cool.
No, I love the callback to I love the callbacks to the first Avenger, which I thought about putting on the list of the favorite solo movies. It's one of my favorites. I mean, Captain America is my favorite character, so obviously his origin story would be one
You're
of my
welcome.
favorites. But I do think that like the first Avenger movie is worthy of some recognition also.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
but with
sure.
with Zola, now he's like this. He's become this like AI, and he's developed this algorithm
Yeah.
that paired with Project Insight, which is what uh, Pierce and his strike agents are trying to put into motion with the helicarriers. Basically, it identifies the people who are you know
A
current or
threat.
future target, yeah, who are threats to Hydra, and
Mhm.
the helicarriers basically eliminate these people. So,
Yeah. So when we get that information, of course, from the bunker, and of course, it's blown up to bits, right? The very fact that it was also at the boot camp where Captain America trained, right?
right,
It's got the big sign that says "Home of Captain America." It's in New
yeah,
Jersey, and it's it kind of stings, I'd imagine, for Cap. Like this is where he really first felt at home, right? And he was doing good in the world, and he was, gonna fight the Nazis and what have you. And then Shield comes back and has an underground bunker, and then it's been infiltrated from the start. It's been poisoned from the get-go, and every bad thing that's happened in the world, Hydra has had its tentacles literally in it, right? So once that information's revealed, and they go back to is it Sitwell or Stillwell? Because I'm thinking the boys right now.
Let
I
me
think it's
look it up.
Sitwell. I think it's Sitwell.
Yeah, it's Sitwell. Yeah, Sitwell. Yeah.
Sitwell,
Jasper
who
Sitwell. Yep.
thank you. Jasper Sitwell, who was again a hostage on the Lemurian Stark in the beginning of this movie.
It's just Lemurian Star. Just Star.
Oh, Stark. I keep saying Stark. Sorry, Lemurian Star. I got Iron Man on the mind.
Yeah, it's not Stark Industries product. Yeah.
Right. But he ends up being a Hydra mole
Yeah.
in within Shield. It pretty much comes to blows, and he's picked up by literally picked up by Falcon, because he gets pushed off the the roof of a building.
Yeah.
And he starts revealing like those who would be targets with this information, right? And he names off a couple of familiar characters that we
Yeah.
would eventually see in the MCU, aka Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange. So that's a little jarring, that these characters could have potentially been wiped off because they're deemed threats to Hydra and their agenda.
Right. He also mentions a TV anchor in Cairo, which I guess a lot of people thought was a reference to Moon Knight, although
He
in
was
Moon
not a
Knight,
TV
he
anchor,
was
though.
never a TV anchor. Maybe in the comics, one of his alter egos was. I'm not sure. He says the Secretary of Defense, which I guess is a shot at Thunderbolt Ross. I think that's probably who he's talking about. Then he says a high school valedictorian in Iowa City. I've seen some speculation about who this character is. It's not a character that I'm familiar with.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if any of these are going to, obviously Stephen Strange did pay off because we had
Yes.
never heard or seen Stephen Strange until after this movie.
Right.
Bruce Banner was obviously already a part of the world from his solo
Yes.
movie and then the Avengers.
Right.
So that's
Of course.
not, yeah. So it was interesting. And then of course, Sitwell, very shortly after he gets ripped out of a moving car by the Winter Soldier. And I didn't look this up, but he's dead, right? He's got to be dead. We don't see Sitwell again, do we?
Oh, no. So in the scene where they're driving to go wherever, and they're ambushed by, once again, the Winter Soldier, he literally ejects Sitwell out of the car, throws him across the freeway, and I think I can't remember if a car hits him and he flies off, or he just like totally just flies off. And yeah, he dead. He real dead. Dead. Real quick, Justin, we have a question from King B. Johnson, who wants us, if we can, to explain Stephen Strange as a threat before 2016.
Great question, because before 2016, he was just a surgeon, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the one thing you can say about the algorithm that Zola created is that it can predict, like it said, it can it basically said it can identify and predict future threats. So I guess somehow this algorithm knew that he was going to become Doctor Strange, the master of the mystical arts or whatever. Like that. That's the only explanation I think that I have, and probably the only explanation that anybody can really provide.
Yeah, because, and I really wish Frank was able to join us on today's pod, because he's just like our MC guru when it comes to everything about Marvel. I have more questions with regards to how the hell is this algorithm able to predict those sort of outcomes? Like, what information is it being fed in order to predict
all the information? It said your
wild.
SATs, your SATs, your credit score, your everything. Yeah.
And I can definitely understand with Dr. Stephen Strange, because the fact that he said that he has an eidetic memory, a photographic memory, where he was getting his degrees simultaneously, his PhD along with, I guess, his master's. So he's brilliant, and then arguably has become one of the most powerful beings in this universe. So Yeah, big threat for sure.
Yeah, no, he becomes a big threat,
Yeah.
but King's right. Like before it happens, I'm not sure how you can predict that someone's gonna, you know,
I
get
don't
granted
know.
these powers. And then,
I don't know, because like, yeah, he was just a surgeon. He was a world renowned surgeon, I guess one could say. So yeah, but I like what Drew says here. It was a Feige teaser about Stephen Strange. Yeah,
yeah, no, definitely, yeah,
and going back to a comment earlier from Drew, he says, I was absolutely amazed Mr. Kevin Feige did the Captain America with the Winter Soldier and Falcon. Truly, in Feige, we trust. How
oh yeah,
little we knew what the big picture was going to be 10 years ago in
yeah.
2014.
Yeah, and like I said, like I read that book about how it was kind of all put together, and it was. I mean, obviously, Kevin Feige, he was not a, he didn't grow up a comic book fan, but then he, once he started working with Marvel, he basically just kind of, just was voraciously reading Marvel comics, and he has a very good understanding of the universe and what they're trying to create. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I think it's just trying to put the best story out there, and then like we'll connect it when we can connect it, and that's what they did, and
Hmm.
that's what now we're kind of lacking is the connection between all the
Yeah.
projects and stuff. And hopefully that's what we get in the future. We get more connections. And I know one thing we're gonna get in the future is a Captain America movie. In fact,
Yeah.
Valentine's Day 2025, we get Captain America Brave New World. And in this movie, we meet the future Captain America, Sam Wilson, aka the
Hmm.
Falcon. Uh Brittany, what do you think about, obviously we talked about when he meets Steve Rogers, but what do you think about how quickly he's eager to help Captain America? He's like, Captain America needs a good soldier, needs a good friend, and uh he finds Sam, and Sam
Yeah.
obviously has this background with this flying exoskeleton
Hmm.
suit that enables him to do his thing. What do you think
Yeah.
about just his relationship with Steve and how it all kind of comes together?
I mean, wouldn't you want to jump on the opportunity to help Captain America? Like Captain America at this point is a fugitive, right?
Right.
And he has a very handsome, recognizable face. So he's gonna need some backup who is potentially an unknown. At this point, Sam Wilson is a, I guess you could say, retired vet who
Yep.
works at the VA talking with other veterans who are dealing with their trauma from their time in the service. And he has known loss just like Steve Rogers did, right? He knew what it was like to lose his partner out in the field, and that's something that, you know, we as human beings have experienced, but we don't all experience it in the same way, especially for those who have served in the military. And that's a special connection that kind of bonds people together. And so the very fact that they became friends so quickly and were able to rely on one another so quickly is not at all a surprise to me, given that, my dad is also a veteran. So I have so much respect for our military and those who have served and continue to serve in their own way. So their friendship, I think, is a real true testament to what it means to be um, brothers in the military, just
Yeah.
even from different time periods.
Yeah. And as you know, whenever Nat and Steve are on the run, they go to Sam's house to lay low, and Sam offers to help, and Cap is like, I can't ask you to help. You got out for a good reason. And then Sam's like, dude, your Captain America needs my help. There's no better reason to get back in. And then he's
For
back
sure.
in, and he's down with Cap, and then of course he becomes Cap, and then once again that's paid off in Avengers Endgame. That's why Endgame is the best movie ever made, because all of the great stuff that we learn that is planted in these movies is paid off in that movie. But I digress. We're going to talk about Avengers Endgame here in a few weeks for a special reason. So
Oh
look forward to
God,
that too. I'm already
cheeseburgers.
I'm already preparing for that. Yeah, I'm gonna try to eat as many cheeseburgers as I can. So that's maybe just another day.
We're gonna need
Uh,
cheeseburgers to wipe our tears.
there we go. There we go. Um, I want to get to like a moment that like I rewatched this movie a couple times this week to get ready for this podcast. And
Nerd.
there's a part. I mean, I like this movie anyway. I'd probably watch it even if I wasn't potting about it. But there's a funny moment where, in the movie, we find out that, Kate, who's the nurse next door, is actually not Kate, it's Sharon Carter. She lives next door to Steve Rogers so she can keep an eye on him, and she's put there in place by Nick Fury. Of course, Nick Fury, he Hydra, they're onto him. They try to kill him, and they do kind of kill him. I guess he
Right.
fakes his own death to get out
Yeah.
of it. But I love when so after Steve learns that she's not the nurse next door, they have a quick meeting where he's going to Pierce has summoned Cap to his office, and she's at Pierce's office, and they're just like in the hallway, and she's like, Captain Rogers. Yeah, she greets him. She's like, Captain Rogers. He's like, neighbor. It's just the way he says it. I mean, I did not do the line justice, but like it is very funny. It's like an underrated, like
It's kind of
not meant
deadpan.
yeah, not meant to be funny, but like if you just like
Just
watch that in context, it's really funny. He's like
yeah,
neighbor.
it's just
Because
neighbor.
because it's also a woman that I mean he was kind of interested in before. I mean,
Mhm.
he's obviously later on he's still interested in her, but
Can I
I
just
don't know.
say that Cap's game needs some help at that point when he's trying to talk to her and he's like, "Oh, laundry. Yeah. You can toss it in with
Yeah,
mine
but
or whatever."
no, he invites her in. He's like, "Hey, it's probably better than my machine's probably better than what downstairs." And he's like,
Yeah.
like he's like he says it's cheaper. And she's like, "Oh, what's the price?" And he says a cup of coffee. So like that's not a bad
It's
move.
not terrible, but, like, we're
I mean,
jumping about
the
doing laundry in someone else's home. It's like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 pump the brakes."
it's an invite, like, it's all he's trying to get. I mean, like, the guy's been away for 70 years. He's been in the ice for 70 years. Like, I don't think that's a bad I think the game's okay, but that's
He
decent.
tries. I give him credit.
Yeah,
He tries.
yeah.
He tries. Yeah, he does.
You
But
know, he
yeah,
has
you're right. That line when he encounters, Agent 13 and just neighbor.
I don't know. It's just kinda silly, but I
It
liked it.
is.
Um, let's talk about another moment that I kind of forgotten about that's not silly when, Pierce is at his house and the cleaning lady leaves, and he says goodnight to her. And the Winter
Ooh,
Soldier is there in the dark,
yeah.
and they have a little conversation over a glass of milk. Then the clean lady returns to pick up her I don't know
Or
if it's her
keys,
purse or keys or something she forgot, or maybe her phone. I think it was her phone.
something.
And then, of course, she sees Pierce with with, talking to the Winter Soldier, and, Pierce is like, "Oh," and her name's, like, Renata. He's like, "Renata, I wish you would have knocked." He just, like, guns her down right there in his house. I remember the first time I saw that, I was
Cold-blooded.
like, "Wow." Like, I did not expect that.
Without hesitation,
Yeah.
without blinking.
Yeah.
It's just
Just pop,
like
pop. Yeah.
just that whole, like, "Oh, God, like, I really wish," and then just pew, pew,
Yeah.
crazy. Absolutely crazy. And then, like, the stealthness that is Bucky Barnes or Winter Soldier at this
Mhm.
point, having to wear the mask, to hide his identity and just the stare, like the intense stare that he has. And while we're briefly talking about him, one other iconic moment in this movie, and I remember it playing out in the trailer over and over, was after the assassination attempt on Fury. Of
I
course,
know what
Cap
you're gonna
goes
say.
and
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
goes and to chase down the Winter Soldier, and when Cap, of course, brings along his trusty shield and, running across the rooftops and what have you. And he goes and flings a shield to try and knock out Bucky. With the metal arm, he just sticks his hand out and catches it.
Yep.
I mean, iconic as hell.
Mhm.
Like, my God, that was so cool. The hair in the face, and kind of side eye kind of thing. Everything about that whole composition of that shot is just it's so powerful. Like, yeah, you're bad, but like I'm badder, Like
Yeah.
it's cool. So
No,
cool.
no, it's very cool. And, sticking with Cap and Bucky, let's get to the first time because that's the first time they see each other. Of course, at this point, the Winter Soldier, he doesn't remember that he's Bucky Barnes, and he doesn't know who this guy is. But later on in the movie, we have the gunfight on the expressway, and that's where we see Cap and, Bucky throw hands and throw shields and throw
Yeah.
everything, cars and whatever else. Um, what do you remember about that scene, or what do you like about that interaction between the two?
Man, that was a lot going on at the same time. Like it's hard for me to pinpoint, really. I think what stands out most in that scene is just the music. Like that score is just iconic. It kind of has like that kind of scream type
Yeah.
effect that kind of tells you he's on his way, and then just the shots of like the camera coming towards the character as the character's like, just making their way to fuck up people, and it's so cool. Like it's just so cool. It's hard to narrow down, Justin. It honestly is. So I'm gonna throw it back to you.
Yeah, you've got all these like agents and just in the middle of this freeway, and you've got Nat. She's on the run. She's trying to chase down the Winter Soldier.
And she kind of gives him the slip, which is cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And you get Sam, Sam's kind of providing cover up above, with like a machine gun or some kind of firearm. And but no, I mean, obviously the big part of this is when when the Winter Soldier loses his mask.
Yeah.
And Steve sees his face and says, "Oh, Bucky, it's Bucky," and then of course
Bucky?
Yeah, and then
like
of course,
disbelief.
Yeah. And then of course Bucky doesn't remember that name or Steve.
It's like, who the hell is Bucky?
Yeah. Yeah. So
that's so good.
Yeah, just seeing those two like see each other for the first time, kind of that's a cool moment. Then Shield arrests or takes Cap and Nat and Sam into custody.
Mm-hmm.
Maria Hill frees them. She's a double agent.
Her.
Yeah.
Love
on the inside. And it's
protect her. Well, yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't protect her anymore.
Secret invasion, that Maria Hill's no longer with us. So unfortunately.
R.I.P.
Yeah, they didn't give her much of a send off in that show either.
No, they really didn't. It was kind of just. Let's not talk about that show. If you want to know our thoughts about Secret Invasion, check it out in the videos on this channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Yeah. So that was kind of a cool surprise where it seemed while Cap is like, or Sam, I can't remember who it is, who's pleading to the masked agent to try and stop Nat's bleeding because she has been shot, and the baton is like whipped out, and it's like, I'm gonna fuck you up if you don't shut your mouth. And then the double cross of like knocking out the fellow agent, and then she takes off the helmet. She's like, oh, like my brain was squeezed or whatever. It's just really funny. It's just like, oh, like where'd she come from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to see her pop up there, but
not at all.
Thankfully she did. Then there's a scene where the Winter Soldier is back in the the Hydra lair or whatever, and Pierce is questioning him, and then of course Bucky has some questions of his own. He's like, who is that man on the bridge? And Pierce is like, oh, well, he's the guy that you saw on a mission earlier this week, and it's like, no, I've seen him before.
He's like, I remember him. Yeah.
And then
go ahead.
Yeah. Then he's forced to. He has his mind wiped, and he's put back under the mind control, and he's right back to being just the the assassin for Hydra.
So brutal. Like just to actually witness what it takes for him to be. What was the word that Pierce used? To be like rebooted up, basically,
right.
and just how Bucky kind of succumbs to that. Like he knows what's going to come. He knows what's expected of him, and he just like willingly puts the mouth guard in his mouth, and he knows he's about to have his mind messed with and be like hurting. It's rough, so rough.
Yeah, and then we get to I do like when they decide, like, Cap kind of becomes the lead. I mean, he's always the leader, but he basically, once they learn that Fury's actually alive, they devise the plan to take down Hydra. And Steve's like, no, not just Hydra, we're taking down Shield also. Like, we're gonna end all of this.
Yeah,
we're not just stopping Project Insight and helicarriers. We're gonna put it into Shield. We're gonna put it into Hydra. And then Nick Fury's like, well, I guess you're in charge now. And it's like, it's like a very much like Captain America, you know, moment to be the
Yeah.
leader. He's always the leader in
And
some form or fashion.
he's about doing the right thing, and this kind of still would be the foreshadow of what was to come with Civil War, right?
Yeah.
Cap believes strongly in his views, and he stands by his convictions, and he's basically saying, like, you're not going to stop me. Like, this is everything goes. Shield goes, Hydra goes, like everything is going to go because this is not what we signed up for.
Yeah.
So yeah, they go back to infiltrate Shield, and I love how Cap gets in and just puts Alexander Pierce on blast for the whole building to hear. While
we'll get to that in just one
yeah,
second.
go
I
ahead.
wanted to just quickly before that happens, there's a scene where before Steve literally gears up to go to battle, he remembers his mother's funeral and the talk he had with Bucky at the time, and Bucky offers him a place to stay because his mother just died, his father had already passed on, and Steve thanks Bucky, but he's like, "No, I can do this I can get on by myself. I can do this on my own." And Bucky's like, "The thing is, you don't have to." He's like, "'Cause I'm with you to the end of the line, pal." And of course,
Mhm.
that becomes a huge line for later in the movie, when, Steve says it back to Bucky, and then Bucky remembers who he actually is. So, and Luna, I guess, has some thoughts on it too. I guess she has some notes for Cat, but I thought that was a really cool scene. Another flashback, and not I mean, this is a new scene. This wasn't in First Avenger, but we have Skinny
Right.
Steve once again.
Yeah.
Um, what's your take on that?
I think to really drive that point home of the friendship that they shared prior to the super soldier serum and prior to the events of World War II and such, and how much that means to Steve. Like, it kind of goes without saying that Steve wasn't going to track down Bucky to, like, kill him. He wants his friend back, and he wants his friend that he remembers, and that's obviously very difficult for Bucky. He has, you know, hints, shadows of memories from the past, but because he's operated as the Winter Soldier for so long and has had his memory wiped every few, I don't know, months. I don't who knows, but
Yeah.
those events have happened. And Steve's like, whatever it takes. That's just his motto, whatever it takes.
Yep. And as they're getting ready to go into battle, Steve, early in the movie, he's wearing the stealth suit, which is mostly just a blue suit. Very cool suit, though, by the way.
That's actually my favorite suit out of, like,
Oh, really? Okay.
everything. Before, okay, in Infinity War was cool. That was a great adaptation, but, like, this one out of, like, the Captain America solo movies, this one's actually my favorite.
Like, I'm a big fan of Captain America in the movies, of course. I don't really have a favorite suit. I think they all look pretty cool. Maybe the one
Mhm.
I'd like the least might be just Avengers. Like, I think it looks it's
Yeah, it's
it's
very
just
cheesy.
it's not the best look, and of course,
No.
in Endgame, when it's
It's
revisited,
America's ass, though.
right,
Yeah.
right. When it's revisited in Endgame, it's pretty cool to have contrasting Steves, but, that's probably my least favorite, but I do love the stealth suit, and of course, I love him going back to the Smithsonian Institute and getting his, old suit that was in the first Avenger,
Yeah.
and he removes it from the mannequin. The mannequin's up there with the Howling Commandos who also are suited up, and then you get Stan Lee's cameo where he's a
Love.
security guard there, and he's like, "I am so fired," because he just sees the naked mannequin without the suit, so
So cute.
I thought that was great, and then we get to Cap's speech, which Cap's speech, he gets on the PA at, SHIELD headquarters, and he lets them know that, like, "Hey, like, the strike agents and Insight, they're Hydra.
Mhm.
Hydra's SHIELD's been overtaken by Hydra. We can't let these helicarriers launch." And then
Yeah.
his speech, he says, "I know I'm asking a lot, but the price of freedom is high. It always has been. It's a price I'm willing to pay. And if I'm the only one, then so be it. But I'm willing to bet I'm not." And it's like such a great speech. And of course, Sam's like, "Did you write that down, or was that just off the top of your head?"
Off
Like,
the cuff, dude, like,
yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
yeah,
He's so good with his words, and his, like I said, staying true to his convictions and what have you. And it's amazing. And it speaks volumes. It speaks volumes because it does change people's minds within Shield. You start seeing a slight revolt, beginning with Agent 13. She approaches is it Rumlow? Is it Rumlow that was in the control room?
Yeah.
She echoes Cap's words,
Yeah.
And
because Rumlow's trying to get the computer tech guy to launch the ships, and the guy's like, I can't do that. He's like, Captain's orders, and then
Cap's orders.
Yeah, then Rumlow pulls the gun on him, and then Agent 13 pulls the gun again. She's like he said, Captain's orders, and then it becomes like a free for all.
Yeah,
just gunfight. Everyone, Rumlow and them are trying to like launch the ship so they can, enact their evil plan.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. It is. Meanwhile, Pierce.
Right. You want to talk about that?
Sure. I mean, so Alexander Pierce is being visited by, I think they're called the World Council.
The UN Security Council or something like that. Yeah.
Something along those lines. Some councils, different individuals who are visiting Shield. They're given like these special, like, I guess you could say, visitor badges to wear. And they too hear Cap's wonderful speech and kind of turn on Pierce in terms of the approval, I guess, of using said helicarriers. And Pierce is kind of like, well, I'm still going to do what I'm going to do. And those badges end up having an impact on those individuals. But is it before or after that the female council member shows her true colors? I'm trying to remember.
That's before, but then okay. Natasha reveals herself to be one of the World Security Council members. Yeah, she's got like
in disguise. Yeah,
she's got that face technology, like wrap or whatever you call it. Yeah,
yeah. She's had training with the Faceless Men, so she she reveals her true hand. But I love her line too when she pulls the gun on Pierce and she's like, I'm sorry. And you can hear the voice distortion changing from the British voice to her voice. And she takes off the mask. She's like, did I ruin your moment? And it was just so great. It was awesome. My girl. Yes. and then enter from stage left, Nicholas J. Fury in all his glory.
Yep, and he ends Alexander Pierce's attempted a coup as he shoots him right there. And even Pierce, his dying words are Hail Hydra. So he still, not giving it up. He's Hydra through and through.
Yeah, sure is. Bastard. Anyway, so he's dead. Real dead. Dead.
Yeah.
And the helicarriers are still up in the air. They need to be brought down. Cap's gonna do what Cap's gonna do to try and take down these carriers. But it wouldn't be an ending if you also didn't have another antagonist trying to stop the protagonist's mission. And once again, we see Cap fighting his friend, the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes. And he doesn't really put up much of a fight after a bit. And he's just taking these hits from Bucky.
Yep.
And he says a line to him that calls back, I guess, to their time in growing up, and I'm with you to the end of the line.
Yeah.
And it's a really moving scene in that moment, because then afterwards Bucky just kind of gives up. The carrier's still falling. Cap falls into the Potomac, and you kind of maybe perhaps think this is it. All is done. Like, that's it. But no, Bucky surprised the hell out of all of us. He pulls Cap from the water and then disappears.
Yeah. And before that, once Cap and the team are able to take down the helicarriers, there's a part where, there's a metal column that the Winter Soldier's pinned under, and Captain America frees his friend.
Yeah.
That's when the scene you were just talking about where,
Mhm.
Cap's like, "You know me," and then,
Yeah.
Bucky's like, "No, I don't," and then
Mhm.
Cap's like, "Your name is James Buchanan Barnes. I'm not gonna fight you. You're my friend." And then Winter Soldier's like, "You're my mission," and he starts punching him with the middle arm.
Mhm.
And then Cap, who's like barely conscious, he's like, "Well, then finish it because
Yeah.
I'm with you till the end of the line." And then he like the just the facial acting by Sebastian Stan, where he's like he realizes like, "Oh,
Mhm.
this is your Steve. Like I'm Bucky. Like this is what's happening."
Mhm.
And right. Also, like King says here, he shot Captain America 3 or 4 times in the chest and the stomach. He's got, his Cap is bleeding. He's battered. He's bruised. But then he's like, "I'm not going to fight you. Like, you're my friend."
Yeah.
And then we get no, you're my mission. He's like, "Well, finish it."
Mhm.
Like, it's really good writing.
Finish
And then
it.
it's really good writing. And then it's,
It
like I
is.
said, Sebastian Stan's face whenever he hears, "I'm with you till the end of the line." He just like awakening. And then all of a sudden, like you said, Cap falls into the river. Bucky rescues him, and yeah, crisis averted.
Mhm. One detail we've failed to mention is that before Pierce's demise, Black Widow decides that she's going to, or maybe not she decides, but the plan is to reveal Hydra to the public. So all these secret files, all
Yeah.
these what they got back from the Lemurian Star is going to be, she's leaking it. She's leaking it out on the internet for the public. And not only was it going to impact Hydra, it was also going to impact Shield itself. So her past was also going to be put out there. And because of that, she is now sitting in a is it a House committee or a Senate committee sort of council
Mhm.
where they're, I guess they're trying to try her for her actions, and she kind of hands their ass back to them and says like, you need people like us. You need people like us to stop the Alexander Pierces of the world. Like, you know, do what you want, but at the end of the day, you're gonna need us. You're gonna call us up.
Yeah,
Mic drop.
exactly. And then we get to Steve wakes up. He's in the hospital. Trouble Man by Marvin Gaye's playing. And there's like I don't know if it's an iPod or it's an iTouch or I'm not sure. It's
uh
2014. It,
Old school. I'm
it might
pretty
just been an
sure it's an
iPhone. Yeah.
iPod.
Okay.
No, I think it was an iPod though.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sam is seated, to the right of Captain America, or he's seated next to Captain America. And then when
Yeah.
Cap wakes up, he's like on your left, and
Love
Sam
that.
smiles. Yeah, that's awesome. Then we get the Sam and Steve go to the graveside, the fake graveside for Nick
Nick
Fury,
Fury.
who's
Mhm.
using this death as a way to, now he's on another mission. He's going to go to Europe. He's trying to recruit those guys to go with him, but
Yeah.
Steve is focused on the Winter Soldier, and
Sam's right there, ready to
Sam's
go.
right there with him. Yeah, and he's like Sam's like, "Oh, you're going after him, right?" And Steve's like, "Yep, you don't have to come with me." And Sam says, "I know. When do we start?" And then the movie ends. It's like
Yeah.
very cool ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but before that, we do get like Steve and Nat with a kind of a final goodbye.
Mhm.
And once again, like because like Nat gives Steve the file on the Winter Soldier.
Mhm.
Um, and then she's like, "Do me a favor, call that nurse." And then it's like, she's not a nurse. It's like her name's Sharon. She's nice, and like it's just like till the bitter end, she's like trying to hook him up with other people. So
I have a question for you.
sure.
Being that Nat is the badass assassin, intelligence operative that she is, do you think she actually knew Sharon Carter's true identity and the relationship that she has to that of Peggy Carter?
It's hard to say. Like
Hmm.
because there's one part when they're in that Camp Lehigh bunker where there's a photo of
Sharon. Not
yeah,
Sharon. Sorry,
uh,
Peggy.
Peggy. There's a photo of Howard Stark,
Hmm.
uh, and
Tommy Lee Jones.
right, Tommy Lee Jones's character, yeah. And Nat asks Steve, she's like, "Who's the girl?" And he doesn't really answer.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like she probably knows.
Mm.
Oh, then it's also kind of weird if she's trying to like constantly hook him up with her, with
Her
Peggy's
niece.
niece.
Yeah.
I feel like that's so maybe she doesn't know. That's
I
tough to call. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely can see that for sure. I just feel like with all of the files that were leaked onto the internet, would that information been leaked as
Oh, yeah.
well? So, but yeah, she calls in a favor to Kiev and gets as much info as she can about the Winter Soldier. And she said, be careful. You're not gonna like what you might find in there. And I think it goes without saying that that's how Cap found out about the Winter Soldier ties to Howard and Maria Stark. And there's theories that that was the reason why in Age of Ultron, when they're all playing I call it a drinking game. It's not a drinking game when they're trying to pick up Thor's hammer. And, in Cap's attempt to pick up Mjolnir, it kind of moves and Thor gets a little worried. The theory is that the reason Cap wasn't actually able to pick it up was because of that information that he knew about his friend and the true outcome of his parents at the hands of Bucky. So it's a great theory. It kind of jives, but
I think it could be in the file, but also if you remember in this movie, whenever they meet the Zola supercomputer, Zola shows how Howard Stark and his wife were killed. I mean, like briefly, he shows like their
it shows the
face
headline. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
but
we're led to believe that the Winter Soldier was behind a lot of these
kills.
events.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So
That's
he
true.
might have just put it together that way, or like you said, it's in the file, or
Mhm.
some other way. So
Perhaps
um,
the world may never
interesting.
know.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody does know.
Yep.
It's out there. It's out there.
Mhm.
This movie has a mid-credit and a post-credit scene.
It does.
Let's tackle the mid-credit. The mid-credit features there we're at Hydra Lab.
Mhm.
Baron von Strucker. Baron von
Mhm.
Strucker is there with his scientists, and they're looking at the scepter from Avengers, and they have two test subjects. One with superhuman speed, the other with telekinetic powers. Brittany, who are these characters?
They are none other than the Maximoff twins, Wanda
And Pietro.
and Pietro. Spaced out on that. Wow, that was hard for me because I immediately wanted to say Quicksilver
Yeah.
and Scarlet Witch, but
Scarlet Witch, yeah.
yeah, their real names are Wanda and Pietro Maximoff. And they will play significant roles in, of course, the next team up movie, which was Age of Ultron, and just everything here on out.
Yeah, I like this mid-credit scene. I like how, they're showing the twins and they're doing their, Quicksilver speeding around his little cell, and Wanda's making stuff move with her mind, and Strucker's like doing the narration. He's like, it's no longer an age of heroes, and now we're in the age of miracles, and nothing's more
Mhm.
terrifying than a miracle. So
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty good mid-credit stinger to
Yeah.
to it. And
It
then the
leaves a
post-credit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's a great cliffhanger,
Yeah.
for what's to come. So that was well thought out of.
Yeah. And then the post credit also, this movie, this movie did a good job, because not only is it a great movie, but it's got a mid and a post, and both of them are I would say, like, maybe one day we'll sit down and rank all of the mid and post credit scenes, but these are two of the better ones. Like, I think
Mhm.
these are two that actually they actually go somewhere with both of
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
And in the post credit, we see Bucky Barnes, aka the Winter Soldier. He has made his way to the Smithsonian Institute, and he sees the story about him, and you can just see on his face that he's remembering all that happened in the 1940s,
Yeah. Yeah.
which leads perfectly into
Civil War.
Captain America: Civil War. Yeah,
Sure does. Because yeah, we get that great interaction between him, Cap, Cap and Sam Wilson. Recalling, I say, intimate details that only Bucky would know about Steve. So yeah, it's this is a great setup for obviously the next solo film and then even like team ups. So It was great. It was great. And I'm looking here in the comments though. King B Johnson, where's Magneto?
He's on
Yeah.
X-Men 97.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that the twins are actually a product of Magneto, but of course rights to characters and such are not able to happen in this adaptation, of course. But yeah, it was they made it work. They made it work for what it was, right?
Yeah.
So Drew here says, 10 years ago, we all were like, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Yep. Sure were.
Yeah.
Yep. So the movie is awesome. And I actually cannot believe it's been 10 years. Like when you brought this idea up about doing a 10th anniversary rewatch, I'm like, wait, what? Like 10 years?
Yeah.
I genuinely do not remember what I was doing 10 years ago, let alone remembering that this movie came out in 2014. So it's like, mind blown.
Yeah, and this is like really kind of when the MCU is really getting really fired up. Like obviously Avengers already had happened and Avengers was a massive hit.
Yeah.
And Iron Man 3 was a big hit financially. It wasn't maybe critically, or I don't think audiences loved the movie that much, but it made over $1 billion. So Marvel was starting to get that ball rolling to where it was just like this, like
all gas, no brakes.
Yeah, money making machine.
Yeah.
But this is just a really good movie. It's like that, can it, kind of has a standalone story too. Like it's a movie that I think anybody could just kind of jump in and kind of get the gist of it. They wouldn't have to go, oh, well, I need to watch, oh, well, Natasha was in Iron Man 2, so I need to go watch Iron Man 2, or I have to watch First Event. I mean, I think you should watch all those movies because I love all those movies, and I think like, why not? What else do you have to do? Like these are just a couple hours of your life at a time. But
exactly.
But no, I do like the fact that it's kind of standalone. And honestly, I wish that I know, they go to Civil War. That was a great idea. Obviously, we get to Infinity War and Endgame, and the sirens are on my end. So if you're hearing this, that's my fault. There's always something going on where I live. But I live next to a firehouse, so that's it's kind of my fault. But no, I kind of wish that we had more stories kind of set in this time period with Cap, with Sam, with the Winter Soldier. And who knows, maybe in the future if Chris Evans ever returns and does the whole, Steve Rogers nomad gimmick, and we have, two Drew with the comment of the night. Hydra's coming for Justin, yeah. Although they would be more like covert. They wouldn't have
that's true
sirens blaring on them. They would just like burst through the window and put a gun to my head or something.
But see, you would be able to play it smart given your knowledge of how to play this, and you would turn to those ops and say, Hail Hydra.
Right. I would definitely do that. Yep.
Yes, you would.
Yep.
God.
Also, my apartment is bugged. I have ears everywhere. That's what I would. But no,
secretly, this face of Justin's is just a mask. He's really the Red Skull. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh God.
You said you wish.
My face is pretty red anyway. So
no. Oh my God. Stop it. But Luna says stop it.
Yeah. Well, I will listen to Luna. I wish there was more of this. I really do. Like I really enjoyed this movie on the of course, I enjoyed it the first time I saw it years ago, but I enjoyed it on the rewatch. And
this is a rewatchable movie. Like that's what's great about this movie. Like I feel, as much as I love MCU, there are some movies that have less rewatchability than others, and this one for me is definitely up there in terms of if it's on TV and I'm just like channel hopping, like I will sit down and rewatch this movie.
Yeah,
it's great.
That's a good point, because this is a movie that's on FX a lot, and for those who have cable or DirecTV or still have Dish Network or that kind of stuff, and I have Fubo, which is like similar to that kind of stuff. If this movie's on, I will end up watching 30 or 40 minutes of it, like, and then I'm like, why? I just watch the whole thing if I want to. It's on Disney Plus, but you do just kind of get sucked into it, and that's a sign of a great movie, I think.
Yes.
So.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. So happy 10th year anniversary to Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yay.
Yeah. I look forward to celebrating more milestones in the MCU, including one we have coming up later this month for another big big
Anniversary.
Avengers, yeah, big film. But we'll get to that at the proper time.
I still haven't recovered from that movie, Justin.
Yeah.
Like, gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. That's a movie. That's also a movie where when it's on FX, when Endgame is on FX or something, or Infinity War, like
Yeah.
I'll have it on the TV. I might not always be watching it, but it'll be in the background. I'll just
Yeah.
those will be playing for hours. And yeah, I love those movies. So
I've got the perfect shirt to wear for the
Okay.
Endgame rewatch. And I think everyone is going to enjoy it, and everyone's probably going to shed a tear.
I think I know what it is.
I think you do. We'll leave it for our viewers and our listeners to check out. So yeah.
But yeah, so I think that about does it for Captain America: The Winter Soldier. You have any final thoughts? Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
Thank goodness for Sebastian Stan making his return to the character Bucky Barnes, Winter Soldier. Love that arm. It's amazing. Like Rocket said in one of those movies, I'm gonna get that arm. Like,
he does get the arm.
He does get the arm.
Yeah, the Christmas special. So
yeah, he does, which is great.
He gets a arm that's a Winter Soldier. Yeah, an arm, but like I don't know if it's. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I'm trying to remember what if it was the vibranium one or what it. I can't remember which. I don't think it was a vibranium one because I think that's what he was wearing in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier show. But either way, Rocket got an arm. He got his wish. Yeah.
And we will see Sebastian Stan back as the Winter Soldier in Thunderbolts, which I think is supposed to come out next year. We'll see if that actually that might get pushed, but that movie. Oh no, that movie's in the works because
the production's begun.
Yeah, because what's the actress's name?
Florence Pugh.
Yeah, Florence Pugh. She filmed some of it on her phone last week and put it out there on social media. So yeah. So I think we will get that film next year. I think it's next summer, maybe in July.
Something like that.
So.
Yeah.
But of course, this year there's only one MCU film hitting the theaters. And that's Deadpool and Wolverine. and as we kind of get ready for that film, we are reviewing the X-Men movies. But right now we're focused on X-Men 97. We just watched episode 4 today. We'll have our review hopefully coming next Monday. So look out for that.
Catch up.
Yeah.
Well, I need to play catch up on that one, but yeah.
It just aired this morning or today.
Yes.
So you have plenty of time to catch up. So
Woo-hoo.
Yeah. So we want to thank everybody for joining us. And yeah, Brittany, I'll throw this to you. So like now you know what we think about Captain America: The Winter Soldier, and you helped us celebrate the 10-year anniversary. We want to know what you think. And Brittany, how can they do that?
I mean, prime examples here in the live chat from Andrew and King B. Johnson. Thank y'all so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts and questions. And it makes us doing our live stream pods so much more enjoyable because we get to like bounce ideas off each other and we get to, see things from a different perspective. And it's just so much fun. So thank you to Andrew, King B, and Christian of McDorks, who was here earlier. We also thank those who are watching, may not be commenting. It's cool. We appreciate you being here. And those who have taken the time to watch the replay, but we do encourage everyone to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we are on the road to 300 subscribers. We are currently 5 subscribers away from that goal. So be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on this video. It helps out our channel so much. And also don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way, the next time we will have our next live stream, which will be next week, as Justin said, for X-Men 97 episode 4 review. And also you can hit us up on social media. Yeah, that's right. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. Search for us at Watchers Basement. You can use that same name as a hashtag to help not only grow our audience, it's the fastest way for us to find the posts that you share of beams, articles, things that you want us to check out. Use hashtag Watchers Basement when you want to chat with us. And lastly, if you're not into video podcasts such as this here on YouTube, we will also upload this podcast onto Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Be sure to follow us there and also give us a 5-star rating.
Thank you, Brittany. So for Brittany, I'm Justin saying thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time. Have a great rest of your evening. Bye-bye.
On your left.
On your left. Did it.